I think it's time for a tour of Mollywood. Hey everybody, Reefgrrl here, and welcome to my channel. It has been a long time since I brought you an update on Mollywood. The last time I really showed you this tank was in my Pest Control 301 video that was about the spaghetti worms, and several things have changed since then. For one thing, the zoanthids and palithoa are finally rebounding. There are still a few here and there that are having slight issues, such as this one with a sponge growing up right around it. I'm hoping that'll come along. And also, this palithoa up here is being menaced by the torch right beside it. This torch is doing ridiculously well. I really like it. I love how it balances off the gorgonian and the toadstool on the other side. This starburst montipora is starting to encrust upwards on the rocks. Lots of polyp extension all the time. And over here is the sunset monty, also encrusting and showing great color. And this zoanthid opens up more each day. My scrambled eggs are doing well. Back here are the rastas. Don't know what these are, but they're really pretty. One thing you might notice is that the stalks on these zoanthids and palithoa are really long. And I've recently increased the light levels to see if I can address that. And I think they've really benefited from it because some of them look like they're starting to shrink down a little bit and not be quite so leggy. This war coral up here kept getting flipped over when it was down on the sand beside the sponge, so I moved it up here. Seems to be doing well. And the branching cyphastria right here is finally starting to grow out on the rocks. I mentioned the red sponge, and as you can see here, there is a lot of tissue loss, or maybe color loss is a better way to describe it. I haven't looked into the structure of sponges, so I can't tell whether it's losing color or actually losing skin. I haven't seen anything come off of it. It's not getting any worse, and in fact, it almost looks like the color is starting to come back in some spots. So I'm keeping a very close eye on it. This gorgonian is beautiful, but it's getting too big. I'm gonna have to frag it. Oh, okay fish. You're not a clownfish, you know. In spite of the fish messing around in there, the RG weepy toadstool is doing really well, except along that back edge. I'll show you that a little bit later when we look at the side view. Here's a large green hairy mushroom. Started as one, and now it's two. Seems healthy, likes to eat flakes. These guys will get more light once the gorgonian is cut back. And before I forget, let's talk about the babies. I ended up rescuing 4 at various stages of growth. 2 of the 4 were released into the general population a couple of days ago, and they generally hang out close together. Here's one, and here's the other one. As these 2 get grown out a little bit more, I will put them in with the other fish, and then I'll be able to get rid of this eyesore on the side of the tank. And while we're talking about the fish, I wanted to show you something and see what you think. You can see that this fish has a ragged tail. A lot of my fish had cloudy spots on their tails for quite a while. Once I realized that I had super high nitrates in this tank and got on top of the water quality, all of that started to clear up with no other treatment. Somewhere I heard someone say that there was no proof that elevated nitrates had any bad effects on fish. So I don't know if that's true. I haven't looked into it scientifically or done any research on it, but seeing with my own eyes that my fish had cloudy fins and tails, I reduced the nitrates from somewhere around 100 down to under 10, and all that stuff cleared up. So you gotta wonder if the two are related. Getting back to the corals, this mycelium is doing extremely well, getting new eyes. And this lobophilia is kind of in a bad spot. I think I have to move it because it gets beat up pretty bad by the fish swimming around here in a swarm when they see me and they think they're about to get fed. Gorgeous George has been struggling for a while. A couple of months ago, he looked pretty sad. It occurred to me that it's kind of crept up on me how many stony corals I have in this tank. There's George, the lobophilia, the mycelium. Back here, I have emerald pocillopora. Then going across here, I've got the war coral. There's another war coral down here. They're all growing. And then up over here, I've got this starburst montipora with the sunset montipora and more pocillopora and this huge torch. I was doing frequent water changes to stay on top of the nitrate issue. So it never occurred to me I should probably test for calcium, alkalinity, and magnesium. It's been probably 8 or 9 months since I last did that. So I tested. Calcium 320, alkalinity 6.4, magnesium 1350. Obviously, I needed to add calcium and alkalinity. So I started dosing and gradually the numbers are coming up. This Yuma ricordia is still dropping babies everywhere, but something else is happening. It's actually splitting via two-mouth longitudinal fission. Now I'll show you how the tank looks from each side and from the top down. Here's the view from the left-hand end of the tank. This toadstool used to be big and beautiful and round and fluffy, but since it started fragging itself, it's turned into a really weird shape. I really hope it someday comes back to normal, but I'm not counting on it. The giant green Yuma down here still isn't attached to anything, but it seems to be creating a base under its foot by collecting rubble from the bottom. It opens, it's healthy, so for now, I'm just going to leave it. The bounce mushroom has really grown a lot, but I think it needs maybe a little more light and a little less flow, so I might have to move it. This emerald green pocillopora used to be up in front of the torch, but the torch was really beating up on it, so I removed it. When that happened, it broke into 2 pieces. I've mounted both down here and it's still adjusting to much less light. This red blob is the final piece of my red tree gorgonian that I got about 1.5 years ago. It does have polyps that come out, and I'm hoping I finally found the right place for it to start to grow some branches. The zoanthids down here are looking better every day, and it looks to me like they're getting new polyps. I've yet to see any encrusting on the actual rock, but I'm hoping. This one up here is always struggling. Every time I look at it, I see polyps in different places, and it almost looks like it's trying to crawl off that frag plug. The utter chaos is finally getting new babies underneath, but it doesn't seem to be spreading out on the rocks. Coming back up here, this gorgonian looks huge from the side, and you can see where it's obviously been irritating the weepy toadstool. I think this happens during water changes because as the water level goes down, the gorgonian droops, and I think it actually rests on the toadstool, and the toadstool is not liking it. So that should improve once I get a chance to frag the gorgonian. That shouldn't happen anymore. So there's your left side boob. And here's the right side boob. Here's where the fire shrimp lives, and this is usually about all I see of him, although sometimes he does peek out the back. The pulsing xenia are doing great. Everything was on one tile before, and then it started to jump onto rocks. It would actually grow on the glass if I let it, and I've scraped it off a couple of times. Here's another view of the orange Yuma. You can see there are lots of babies coming. Here's a close-up of the sunset Monty, and you can see the polyps are really out there. This zoanthid does open most days, except when the fish are picking food off of it. Oh, and Mr. Crab is busy cleaning up. I've lost quite a few zoanthids that were on this side. The ones that are left, though, do seem to be doing pretty good. The rastas have added a couple of polyps to the collection, and I hope they just keep spreading out. The color looks great. I have a couple of bonus Pocillopora frags here. Both are actually broken pieces from larger colonies in the big tank. This one's got a flake. Here's a side view of the torch. It has gotten huge. If anyone remembers the Cyphastria project, Arts and Crafts with Reefgrrl, here's one of the two that I tried. Statue Guy didn't do so great, but this one is doing really well. This is the Hell's Gate Cyphastria, and it has great color, and it's also spreading. Here's the view from the front. You can see it is growing upwards. Over here in the big tank is the Party Crasher Cyphastria that was on top of Statue Guy, and it has gone nuts in here. Getting back to Mollywood, as promised, here's a top-down view. So I still have a lot of work in front of me to stay on top of the water parameters in this tank, and I'll report back in a couple of months and let you know how it's going. And if you've stuck with me this far, you are a superstar. There you go, Gabe. Sorry, everybody.